In the southernmost reaches of the Florida Everglades, in a land of heat, sawgrass, and silence, stands the shell of a titan. This is the story of Aerojet-General, an outpost of Cold War ambition where engineers battled swamp, mosquitoes, and isolation to build the most powerful solid-fuel rocket motor ever fired on Earth. In the early 1960s, with the space race heating up, NASA searched for alternatives. Solid-fuel boosters were promising, simpler, scalable, and stable under extreme conditions. Aerojet-General Corporation, backed by the General Tire and Rubber Company, was chosen to take on the challenge. General Tire had acquired a 50% stake in Aerojet back in 1945 and eventually took full control, transforming into the aerospace conglomerate GenCorp. This partnership would fuel a massive technological push. To build their test site, Aerojet acquired 25 square miles of remote Everglades marshland south of Homestead, Florida. Construction began in 1963 with nearly 10 miles of paved roads and roughly 13 miles of canals. The roads linked test areas with buildings miles away, while the canals allowed enormous rocket parts, too large for road or rail, to arrive by barge, through wetlands crawling with alligators and American crocodiles. It was brutal work. Bulldozers sank into mud. Bite-in flies swarmed. Mosquitoes attacked in black clouds. Workers endured snakes, stifling heat, and an endless army of insects. Yet they pressed on. By 1964, Aerojet had completed a full rocket development site. At its heart, a 150-foot deep vertical test silo with reinforced flame trenches and a massive nozzle opening pointed skyward. The nozzle expanded from 43 inches at the throat to 260 inches, over 21 feet. At the exit, other buildings, fuel processing labs, oxidizer storage, test stations, bunkers, were built miles away in case of catastrophic failure. In March of that year, Florida Governor Ferris Bryant visited for the site's official dedication. Wearing a white shirt and narrow tie, he addressed a crowd of engineers and VIPs, proclaiming Florida's new role at the forefront of space and national defense. At the center of it all was the AJ-260 solid rocket motor. Over 80 feet long and 260 inches in diameter, it was the largest solid-fuel rocket ever built. Producing over 5 million pounds of thrust, it was a monster. Designed not to fly, but to prove that solid fuel could power missions to the moon. On September 25, 1965, the AJ-260 was test-fired for the first time, a shot known as SL-1. Buried in its silo, with its massive nozzle aimed skyward, the motor ignited. A column of fire roared upward. The blast was seen from Miami. The swamp shook. The sound carried for miles. 2 more test firings followed, SL-2 in 1966 and SL-3 on June 17, 1967. The most powerful solid-fuel rocket test ever conducted. But SL-3 had consequences. Hydrochloric acid fallout damaged crops, prompting lawsuits and environmental reviews. Despite its success, the program ended. NASA stuck with liquid-fueled Saturn V rockets. The AJ-260 program was canceled. By 1969, the site was largely abandoned. But not everything was dismantled. The vertical silo still stands, and deep inside, buried and sealed, rests an inert AJ-260 rocket motor, entombed in the Florida muck. The canals remain, the flame trenches remain, and over a dozen buildings still stand, scattered across the wetlands. These remote buildings, bunkers, labs, offices, were placed far from the test site for safety. Today they sit abandoned, collapsing, overgrown with vines and trees. Inside, graffiti. Some is crude, some are just initials, but some is art. Murals, characters, tributes, a second history. told in spray paint. Nearby, a Nike missile base in Everglades National Park once stood ready during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Aerojet likely played a role in producing solid propellant for military systems, like the Hawk and Polaris missiles. Their chemical expertise, inherited from General Tire, was key to developing early rocket fuels. Today, the land is owned by the South Florida Water Management District. It's not a Superfund site, but environmental concerns remain. Chemical residue, asbestos, and the cost of demolition have kept it standing. Forgotten by many, reclaimed by nature, studied by a few, painted by the brave. The Aerojet-Dade facility is a time capsule of ambition, a rocket too big to fly, a dream too massive to erase. And so it stands, quietly rusting in the heat as the swamp swallows its secrets.